Oh hey, guess where I am? I'm currently in Asheville, North Carolina. Why am I here? Because of this right here. Yes, I have the opportunity to test drive the all-new 2024 Chevrolet Trax. This one behind me is the 2RS, but they have actives here. They have LSs, they have LTs, different trim levels, and I am going to test drive them today to tell you what my first impressions are. So with that, let's get going. All right, so yes, as you can see, and as you heard, I was very fortunate to be able to test drive the new 2024 Chevrolet Trax. And I have to say that I went in with a little bit lower expectations. Of course, I'm normally a big truck guy, big SUV guy. And I will say, I was never a massive fan of the previous generation Trax. But let me just say this first. That was just a personal thing. As far as the quality of it, the amount that I sold when I was in sales, they were a great vehicle. It just wasn't for me. And there were some of the things that I didn't really like, and some of the things I think they changed and they improved in the new version of this Trax. Now, what is exciting about this, again, is I got to test drive this, not only just test drive it, I get to test drive it in the mountains. I think the Blue Ridge Mountains it was called, in just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. So there are a lot of twists and turns, elevation changes, speed changes, and so on. Now, as far as what I got to drive, I didn't really get a lot of footage in the vehicle aside from, of course, what was ahead of me, because I really wanted to focus on driving the vehicle along with my co-pilot Steve from Car Scoops, who was a rally car racer himself. So, and when I was in the passenger seat, I got to experience a little bit in terms of what it was capable of, even more so, I think, than, what I would have ever pushed it to. But the point is, this was a very surprising test drive for me. Now, going over the vehicle, first and foremost, if you didn't already know, other than the name, there really isn't a whole lot of, things that are the same from the outgoing model. It is longer by about 11 inches. It is wider by about 2 inches. It has a 6-inch longer wheelbase, and I believe the roof is 4 or 5 inches shorter, so it gives a more sleek, streamlined design, much more like a sedan. Now, the one thing I will speak to, especially for my Canadian friends, is this is available only in a front-wheel drive trim. However, I did talk to some of the engineers. They were test driving this actually about 20 minutes south of where I live in Kinross, Michigan, winter testing with the original stock tires on these, and they were saying it was performing excellent. And I will tell you this, I think, especially if you're moving from a cruise or from a compact car of any sort, and you're moving over to this, it has better ground clearance, a little more weight, a little more stability, and you put a set of winter tires on, and I think at the prices you're coming in at, by the way, in American dollars, this thing is coming in at just over $21,000, and the max, to get to the highest trim, you can start at $25,000. So like $21,000 to $25,000 American is an amazing price point to come in at this vehicle. So all that being said, you get a set of winter tires, this is going to be a very capable vehicle in terms of what its performance is. Now, not only that, but of course, in the inside, there is more space as well. We have about 6 inches more cargo room, 6 cubic feet, more feet of cargo room in the inside, not to mention 3 inches more leg room behind the passenger. Now, I can say that I sat in the front of the vehicle, I sat behind where I would have sat, and or where I was sitting in front of myself with the seat in the same position, and I actually had a little bit of legroom, and I'm 6'2", so that says a lot for the size of this vehicle and how they've maximized, its potential and its ability to seat people as well as have storage in there as well. And then very quickly, depending on the trim level, all the trim levels are going to have a really nice touch screen. You're going to have an 8-inch screen in the entry trim levels, and the upper trim levels, you're going to have an 11-inch screen. That's the active in the 2RS, the LS, LT, and 1RS, I believe, have the 8-inch screen. And then in front of you, again, when you get to the higher trim levels, it's a fully programmable digital screen. The lower trim levels, it is an analog dash with key start as opposed to a push button start in the higher trim levels. So again, a little bit of differences there. That's what you're getting for a little bit of difference in the dollar. Of course, you're talking about a leather interior on the higher trims versus, cloth interior in the lower trims as well. But let's get talking about how it performs, because if you didn't already know this, and if you haven't seen, probably aren't up yet, but soon I'll be having a walk around of an RS, a walk around of an Active, a walk around of the LS, so you can kind of see, what's available, in terms of each of those trim levels. All right, so because of how time allowed, I only had the opportunity. The LS wasn't available to drive when we were there. The LT, I didn't get a chance to get in because really what I drove was the RS, and I drove the Active. Now, all that being said, as far as the engine and transmission, which I didn't speak to yet, they all carry the exact same 1.2 liter 3-cylinder turbo motor, with the 6-speed transmission, and they each are having the exact same horsepower and torque, which is 137 for horsepower and 162, I believe it is, pound-feet of torque. So as far as the performance that way, there isn't really a whole lot of difference, and the suspension is minorly tuned, but it's only tuned for the tires and wheels that are on it. So again, you're not going to notice a massive difference, although when you get to the bigger tire, of course, you're going to notice more grip on the road and so on. But all that being said, the ones I really got to take out were the Active, and then of course the RS trim. The RS trim we did take out for a bit longer. The Active was a little bit shorter ride, but regardless of that, it was in a different kind of terrain, not necessarily terrain, but different type of drive, and I was really impressed with it. So first and foremost, what I have to say on all of these, of course, both of them, is the torque on these things is very impressive. Now, one of the things that was really neat, because again, my co-driver Steve and I, what we noticed even on the way back was that we were commenting on the fact that, like, on the way back, from the mountains, and we were just on the plain highway heading back into Asheville, we were like, you know what? The whole way back in, we never really thought about, really never noticed that we weren't like talking about the power of it. In a way that, I mean, it is a good thing, because we weren't, when I was driving it back, I wasn't finding that I needed to get more speed, that I was lacking anything, that, at a higher speed, that it was revving up high, none of that kind of stuff. So what I could say, very firsthand, was I was very impressed by the non-noticeableness of it, if you want to say that. Because again, usually when you have a smaller motor like that, it's something you're paying attention to, you're hearing it and so on. Of course, they have some active noise cancellation in this. So, the road noise is very minimal. Steve and I could talk to each other very well, very easily, and not have, road noise, wind noise, any of that kind of stuff getting in the way. So first and foremost, in terms of the actual highway driving and in terms of the actual quietness of the vehicle, both are getting 5 stars from me in terms of that, because again, we're talking about a $21,000 vehicle. Maybe the one I was in was $25,000, but the point is, we're not talking about a Buick Enclave here, right? In terms of the noise dampening. So I was very impressed with what they did with the active noise technology, as well as just the noise dampening that they've done through, of course, the vehicle as well. And then, of course, the handling of the vehicle, the twists and turns. Again, we were going through some pretty high-tech, really tight turns, elevation changes, and so on. And what I found was this thing hugged the road like a sedan. That is what they said it would do, and it did it. So you didn't have as much of that kind of tippy feel. Now, of course, if you're going to compare it to a Trailblazer is shorter in wheelbase, it is shorter overall, it is a bit taller, and that is the next step up, of course. So this is a great transition, as I've already said, coming out of a car, going into this vehicle. You're going to have the capabilities of a smaller SUV, but the ride and feel of a car. Now, the other thing that was really impressive, again, we were up and down these elevation changes, and we were kind of going off the gas and on it, because we wanted to see what the throttle response was. That's the only time I noticed a bit of a difference, was there was a little bit of a lag right off the bat, but we were putting it through its paces, and we were going up elevation changes, which those things aren't necessarily the way that people are going to drive this car. We wanted to see what it's, closer to its max potential, with being in reason, being safe, of course, obviously. And what we found was, of course, that it had that little bit of a hesitation, because again, it's a 1.2 liter. When you're on it, it's not necessarily going to be there right away as you're going up an elevation change of a mountain, right? As you're going around a turn and coming back on and going on the gas again. So what I can say, though, is that was the only hesitation. That would be the only X or smaller, 2 stars out of 5 that I would have noticed. But again, that is not why I would be purchasing that car, as many of you wouldn't be as well. It'd be a normal daily commuter, in town, on the highway. None of those things wasn't an issue. In fact, it was really very, very impressive. And of course, out of all that, amazing fuel efficiency, and you have one amazing vehicle at an amazing price with some amazing technology in it. I'm telling you, as I said, I am shocked after having this test drive at how amazing and how impressive this Trax was. I would recommend this vehicle to just about anybody I know who doesn't have, a large family. If you're an empty nester, if you're a younger person, or if you're a younger married couple and have maybe one child, for an example, past that, of course, you might want to go up to something a little larger. But again, the size was very capable, easy to park, easy to steer. The cameras worked well. Man, I'm telling you, I cannot say enough about this vehicle. I'm very fortunate and very lucky that Chevy allowed me to drive it, because I had a bit of a negative impression as to what I thought about it before. And then let's talk about the looks. By the way, let me stop for a second as I'm interrupting my own self. This thing looks like a little Blazer. So it also carries a look. So it has the power, the performance, the gas mileage, the price, and the looks. I mean, what more do you want, right? Go to your local dealer, because they're landing now. Check one of these out. This is the 2024 Chevrolet Trax. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care.